Warning: the Chaotic Culture Podcast is a program for mature audiences. The language and content presented in this podcast is of a mature nature that some audiences may not find suitable. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
Embrace the culture, blaze the doja, grab your loved ones and bring them closer. Extra, extra, read the poster, the KKP is taking over. Sleeping on me, better smell the Folgers. I've been razor sharp since the Motorola. Off for O, like the cover Oprah. Popping bottles, feet all in the sofa. It's a celebration, though the times is hard. It's raining blessings, give it up to God. Chaotic culture, the greatest pod. With Ked the Pro, the one in charge, but it's a celebration. Times is hard, it's raining blessings, give it up to God. Chaotic culture, the greatest pod. With Ked the Pro, the one in charge.
We're living in a chaotic culture. 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 Oh, we're living in a chaotic culture. 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 Oh, we're living in a chaotic culture. 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 Oh, we're living in a chaotic culture. We're living in a chaotic culture. We're living in a chaotic culture. We're living in a chaotic culture.
Well, here we are again. Obviously, we had tried to record this the first time, and unfortunately, Ableton crashed on us, and it glitched. And long story short, pretty much I could not convert the file to MP3, so we have to do this again. This is now going to be episode 2 as opposed to episode 1. That being said, it is what it is. You know, we just had to come in on a different day and do it. So let's go ahead and get it out the way. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Chaotic Culture Podcast, the pod where chaos rules and black culture is elevated. This podcast will deep dive into modern black culture and how millennials and Gen Z can navigate the crazy parts. If you've never listened to this before, of course, I thank you for you tuning in for the first time. Of course, if you're a returning listener, once again, we appreciate your support. As far as what this podcast will include, if you have not been here before, this podcast will include anything between finances, music, black business highlights, home ownership, college, sports, black nerdom, all that and everything in between. So with that, today is a special episode. We are definitely going to do a deep dive, or a quick deep dive, into the discography of one of the greatest hip-hop legends of all time. But before we do that, we have to introduce the squad. So, of course, we are going to start with myself, live from the 7-5. Of course, I am the host and the creator of the Chaotic Culture Podcast. It's your boy, Ked the Pro, a.k.a. the Calculated Millennial, a.k.a. the Cutlass Diamond.
Don't be pushing on my buttons in my cutlass unless you couldn't.
The 843 is me, but VA is where I stay. Always chaotic, never toxic. At least I don't try to be. I'm also known as Toxic, or excuse me, I'm also known as Panda's favorite toxic adjacent king. So I mean, I guess I'm somewhere in between there, whatever. But yeah. Usually from Hampton, Virginia. Now we are settled in Newport News. Things happen. Life update. I'll give a quick life update after we introduce the rest of the crew. So, as always, we got to give the first shout out here to the first lady of the pod, Miss Nasa. If you can go ahead and introduce yourself, ma'am.
Y'all already know what's good. It's your girl Nasa, aka Tony the Wire, the female Picasso, GVGBO. You already know, good vibes only.
Indeed.
How y'all doing?
We're good. Nice to see you back with us again. I know the last few episodes you had been absent. I know that you went home, so that's all good.
Fam time.
Yeah, indeed.
Had to spend some time with family.
Yep. And of course, as always, going to go ahead and introduce to everyone here my boy Law. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
What's going on, everybody? It's Law, aka Lawrence, Mr. Run It Up. Back at it again.
Run it up.
Second episode.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? Let's get it.
Word. So, quick highlight here. The Chaotic Culture Podcast has now officially reached over 2,000 plays. So, yes, thank you guys for your support. We definitely appreciate you all listening, whether you are a continuous listener or a new listener. You know, we could not have gotten this far without you. So, yeah, we've been going for a year, a little over a year now, and now have over 2,000 plays. So that does my heart some joy. For those of you who support us monetarily, of course, I know that you guys have supported through Anchor. So once again, I appreciate you. For any new subscriber here, I would definitely check our Patreon out. We have a Patreon now, so go to patreon.com/CounterculturePod and be sure that you subscribe on all 4 levels. We are getting a sponsorship or 2 here. That is in the works, so just be on the lookout for that. Yeah, so let's go ahead and just get the quick life updates out the way. For me, of course, y'all just heard that I just moved to Newport News, so there's that. In August, of course, I lost my grandfather, so I only have one grandparent left. That being said, my grandfather lived a long time. He lived a long life. 97 years ain't nothing to sneeze at. And with that, of course, I know that he, above everything else, that man was a man of God, and he was a giant in his community. So I know that, you know, based on the things that he taught me and the lessons that he gave me, I'm going to forever move forward with the knowledge that he bestowed upon me. So, you know, it's never easy, and anytime you have a loss in the family, you know, you're going to experience it, especially if you're close to that person. So yeah, it's just something that you have to, you know, overcome. But don't let anybody tell you how to grieve or when you can grieve, because I mean, nobody can tell you about your pain. Just take time to do it, you know, and God has allowed you to do it. So for me, it's just remembering that, and this is actually a lesson that my pastor taught this morning. It's just a lesson to remember that, you know, it is okay to grieve. It is okay to be in pain. And just remember that your pains and sorrows, that God is bearing those as well. And that he will lift you up out of despair and out of darkness so long as you continue to put your faith in him. So there's that. Not much has happened outside of that. Other than me working with the band, of course. So, quickly, anybody else? Life update?
I moved into my own spot.
Hey.
So, been there since July. And just been, like I said, just been taking it one day at a time. Trying to get some other plans and stuff up and running. So, if y'all look on my Instagram, y'all see I'm doing meal prep. So,
okay.
If, you know, y'all need help with meal prep or trying to, you know, get back in a healthy lifestyle, you know, hit your boy up. I got you. Got what you need.
hey. Love to hear it. Nas, a quick life update for you, madam.
Quick life update. I'm doing okay. I think right now I'm in the space of really trying to be mentally and emotionally balanced.
Okay.
That is very important for anybody.
Yep.
Is to try to have that emotional management. And gain it. Not to say, and don't make it seem like I'm just some angry person.
Oh, no,
so
no.
Anybody listening to this saying, we should need emotional management, no. I think
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, we can say.
Everybody needs some type of like emotional management to keep yourself at peace.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's definitely what I'm working on. Also, I'm also going to be a vulnerability moment. I'm also going to be seeking therapy because I also think that is also very important.
Yes,
definitely.
So if anybody's listening to this, if you are feeling like you're not really being heard, or you're feeling like you just need to kind of like work on self and be a little bit self-aware, therapy is a good route to go to. It's really not about seeking or thinking that you are mentally ill. It's about healing self.
Of course.
And so definitely.
This is the year about healing self, and
I'm here for it.
Yeah, definitely. Shoot, I need to be doing what you're doing. I'm actually considering seeking therapy myself, but especially after what just happened in August. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely going to need some therapy to not only get through this, but just other things in life in general. And guys, we want to make sure that negative stereotype around therapy is eliminated. So as Nas said, this is not to say that something is mentally wrong or that you have a mental illness. Everybody can benefit from therapy. you really have to find the right therapist, but everybody can benefit from therapy.
Yeah, you definitely got to you definitely have to find the right therapist, but again, it's really about healing self. And like,
exactly.
If you don't want to continue in the same patterns that, not like our last generations have gone through, just like as far as traumas, because generational traumas, those do transfer and those are extremely real. So if you're not trying to continue those, I think that it's best to seek assistance.
Indeed.
Definitely.
Indeed. So, with that, we're going to go ahead and move on really quickly. Now, you guys heard me talk a little bit about it in the prologue here, but we're going to really just talk about, well, really 4 more albums that drop before we actually get into the actual meat and potatoes of this pod. Now, the albums that I'm referring to, first and foremost, you heard my opinion on Donda, but we just got to get the opinion of Law and Nasa here. We got to give a quick opinion of Certified Lover Boy, The Melodic Blue by Baby Keem, and actually an album that literally just dropped on Friday that I'm going to talk about. I don't know if anybody heard, but D-Smoke dropped an album. Yes. Yeah, Warren Wonders. And when I say that album was heavy, I mean, I didn't think that he could get heavier than Black Habits, but he got heavy. So,
and Black Habits was a excellent project.
Yeah.
Excellent project.
Yes. Look, man, D-Smoke can make some music. But let's start. Obviously, my opinion with Donda is pretty much the same because I did listen to it again. I will always say the production is great on that album, but sometimes when it comes to Kanye, he can be his own worst enemy. And staying on like the topics of certain songs, very, very hit or miss. Of course, lyrically, he's not the same as he used to be. There are still some songs that really, really touched my soul, like Jesus Lord and Keep My Spirit Alive. Those are 2 of my favorite ones on there. But overall, if I had to give this album a rating, I guess I'm gonna say it's mid. It's gonna be in the middle here. I think I like the concepts of Jesus is King better than I did the concepts of Donda, because I get, especially with the listening parties that he had about how, he was channeling the spirit of Donda and, his mom, and pretty much how it has kept him rooted in his rededication to Christ. But you could tell that it is just like, I don't know. Something about the album structure didn't really click with me. So that's kind of where I stand. If I had to give it a number rating, it'd probably be anywhere between maybe a 6 or 7. I don't know. I'll probably stick to like 6.5. So, and I don't know if that's the rating that I gave in the prologue, but that's just how I feel. Anybody else?
I just feel like it's very much gimmicky. Like, it's one thing to, say that you're dedicating it to your mother. But when you listen to some of the other songs where he was talking about throwing shots, and like, you don't intertwine a dedication and rap beef that you really don't even entertain like that in a project that's supposed to be dedicated to your mom. Don't get me wrong, production was great, like you said, but other than that, I just can't get with it. Very much mid.
Okay. there it is then. Nasa?
I'm not gonna hold you. I didn't listen to the album.
Okay.
And it's not that. I mean, granted, I would have listened to the album if he didn't like the introduction, as far as like the promotion and all that stuff. Wasn't the way it was. Like, don't get me wrong. I thought that like, having the stadium, a whole stadium themed listening party was dope. But then he went 3 times, and each time it changed, and then each song went to a diss, like went toward beef with Drake. So it just completely, each time it fell, it completely fell through for what the actual topic was about. Like, if this was a dedication to your mom, then it should have just been about that.
Just a
It should
dedication.
just a dedication. And you're talking about artists who he had asked to be on, who are not even on this, who actually like poured their souls out onto the project, for it to be a selfish type of project.
Yeah, 3 Stacks. Man, yeah, the unreleased track that did not make the album with 3 Stacks on there.
Unreleased track.
Yeah.
I said, Kanye, you dumb as hell.
Yeah, he should have put that on the album. But to stick with your point, you hear 3 Stacks is like pouring out his soul.
Like you can hear the pain in his
Yeah.
voice, like in that verse. But then Kanye is just like, I'm a diss nigga. No.
Yeah,
I'm like,
the shots at Drake is just like, come on, man, really?
Like you completely destroyed the. You completely dismissed your mother and said, "Let me throw this little beef in there real quick. She'll be alright."
Yeah, as I've said,
she'll
man,
be alright. Like she'll be
Kanye
fine.
is his own worst enemy. And that's honestly been the case since College Dropout, but it just seems even more so now that his mother has passed, and as he's dropped music since that point, you can see the decline.
But you can see
know
what
it was
happens.
My bad.
No, you good. Go ahead.
I knew it was a rap when he dropped Yeezus. Like, like that was the. If not before that, that was like the true beginning of.
I think he had with My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and I will forever claim that as his masterpiece. After that, it just seemed like he's kind of scrapping for, trying to come up with art, whereas he put all of his heart and soul into that one and no, I won't say The Life Problem because that came later. But yeah, he put his heart and soul into My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and yeah, now it just seems like he still has it. Oh, and Watch the Throne. Excuse me. So yeah,
I don't know. I think that like this is a very clear example of how you can get lost, how you can lose yourself in the music industry.
And I think he discusses that.
He does
in the project.
I mean, clearly he's not afraid to show that he's completely lost himself. Mm-hmm. Especially when it comes to the whole fame, his marriage, his losing his mom. Like,
yep, and all of that is encompassed within the album. It just doesn't fit in.
It's presented on him.
Yeah,
like, it's just presented on him, and I feel like there is a lot of projection that is coming from him. Maybe whether he acknowledges it or not. And that's probably from past trauma that he has not healed. This is why it's important, people.
Yes.
To heal from them hoes.
Yes.
It's important, people, to heal from them shits. Because you end up unconsciously projecting those actions when you don't address them.
Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, I think we're all in agreement here that it is some mid. If Nasa ever chooses to listen to it, I'll get her opinion later on that of the full project.
I'll give us one last thing. If you're gonna listen to it and like you're just listening for like the actual production value, you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
But if you're listening to it for the lyricism and for actual lyric content, you might be upset.
Yeah.
But I mean, it depends on what you listen to for.
No, that's real. That's real. And then of course the multiple artists that he has on this project. I think out of the entire project, Kanye had like maybe 40% of the lyrics, whereas the other 60% was to the feature artist. Mm-hmm. So, granted, Kanye's on every song, but all the feature artists combined have dedicated more lyrics to the actual album than Kanye has
and
himself.
That's real crazy. Like a dedication to your mom. I'm surprised more people had more to say than you did.
I also found it crazy that he went with the clean verse. Like if they didn't drop a clean verse, they weren't included on the album. Yeah. And then on top of that, he didn't even do given features. Like you had to look and see who was actually a part of the song, and he listed them by their government and not their stage name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really
he did a lot.
Difficult.
He did a lot.
Yeah, he did a lot. And then for those, there are certain songs on there that you can tell that he just wanted to keep, but he had to edit out as far as the cussing and whatnot. So you could tell that he did some editing. But anyway, Certified Lover Boy by Drake. I know Aubrey's Angels enjoyed this project. I will say that, is this Drake's best album? No. But was it better than Scorpion? Hell yes. I would say that wholeheartedly, that I enjoyed CLB better than I did Scorpion. There are definitely some tracks on there that I personally love. Obviously, the 7 a.m. on Brittle Path, that he took shots at Kanye, but that was a really, really, really good track. I mean, when he's in his bag like that, if he's given a time and he's somewhere, if he's given that kind of track, then you already know what time it is, man. He's gonna drop some of the best lyrical content. Champagne Poetry was, in my opinion, one of the best openings. I don't know if I would give it a better opening than Tuscan Leather. That is still my favorite Drake opening of all time. But Champagne Poetry was some good shit. As far as Way Too Sexy, which is the actual track that he released for the radios, I personally don't like Way Too Sexy. That's just me, and it probably stems from the fact that the song itself that it samples from, Too Sexy, or Too Sexy for My Shirt, I don't like it, and I've never liked it. So it felt, that song kind of felt very gimmicky, but I know that's kind of Drake's lane too sometimes. So yeah, I will say the music video was interesting. That it was very entertaining, but I personally don't like that track.
There's a lot of homage in the video.
Yeah, I will say, Knife Talk, 21 Savage.
Mr. Savage.
Yes, absolutely,
Savage.
absolutely yes.
Slap.
You say you understood the assignment.
Yeah.
Understood the assignment. Okay.
I personally liked Jay-Z's feature on Love All.
Yeah.
He definitely had a very good closeout line with that one. There's certain tracks like Girls Want Girls with Lil Baby. Lil Baby, you know, I my respect for Lil Baby has gone up, but that track didn't really hit for me. Poppy's Home, it was cool. And then I could like go down the entire track out. For the sake of time, I won't, as far as go down the entire track list. But yeah, those are just some of the ones that really stood out to me and some of the ones that did not. So yeah, if I had to give this one, I'd probably say very, very, very high mid, like 7.99, almost like 8 out of 10. So somewhere around there.
I like the track if he did with Yebba. Yebba's hard.
Oh yeah. Yep. That one was good
Yella
too.
came, and she knew the assignment.
Yes,
As well.
She knew the assignment as well.
she did.
Pretty much everybody who was on this project, to a degree, understood what it was that he was trying to put out for the project, and I can definitely say that like he embodied everything that he was looking for.
Indeed.
If I had to give it a number rating, I'd give it a, like you said, 7.5, 8. You know,
Yeah.
Like it wasn't bad, but it like I noticed something else. I feel it. You know.
Yeah.
Like when Drake gets like this, and he's addressing like all the talks and all the rumors, and like he's just telling folks straight up, like, I'm on this shit. Oh, I'm doing this for my children and or my kid, and you know, he's telling folks straight up, you can't hold a candle to me. And you thought you knew how much money I was making, but I'm still making money. You know
Yes,
what I'm saying?
I'm making more than what you thought.
What you will never do is see me at the bank. That's what he said.
He told him straight up. He was just like, look, you thought you got over on me with that 20 mil? Yeah, that's just my Tootsie's money. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's in his bag right now, so it's only up from Drake.
And this is the first album that is not under Cash Money. This is strictly under OVO. So, you know, gotta give him props. He finally made it out of the realm of Birdman and Slim. So he's out of there. He probably, of course, he still shows love to his label mates, i.e. Wayne, and obviously he featured Onika. There's a reason why I'm calling her by her first name right now, because her situation,
some hot crab water herself.
Exactly. So yeah, I will say, like, yeah, you could.
I'm gonna go beside him. Be beside him.
I just. Okay, so y'all already know. Well, some of y'all probably don't know my opinion of Onika Mirage Petty right now. At the moment,
Not the government.
yes,
nigga.
the government. She don't deserve a rap name right now just because of that whole situation with her and her husband and her husband's victim. So yeah, I'll get into more talk about that later. But yeah, any other opinions on CLB?
I think that he did what he needed to do. Okay. I think it was way better than Kanye's. You know, sometimes you ain't gotta do a lot.
Yeah.
To promote your shit, like especially with the clout that he has, like Kanye didn't really have to do much to promote his shit. Like, hey, I'm dropping an album, boom. That's all he had to do. Drake did the exact same thing, but just boom.
He was
humble with it.
The only thing I'll say about Drake is that we were expecting this album in January, and we didn't get it until September. So that's the only part. We was expecting
Donda to win it was after the listening party, but he had 3. So.
Yeah, you're right.
But he had 3.
They both, for whatever reason, decided to make us wait. I don't know why Drake made us wait, but whatever the case may be.
Maybe he wasn't finished with it. But at least Drake knew that he wasn't finished with the shit and was just like, hey, we're going to have to postpone it. Yeah. Instead of Kanye saying, you know what? I think it's right. Nah, it's not right yet. I think it's right. Not yet. I think it's right. But this nigga, Drake, got some beef with me. Oh, bet. Bet we're going to add that shit in.
That's more fuel to the fire.
More fuel to the fire. Like,
even though this is for my mom.
Let this burn. Like...
man, oh man. Okay, I think we've pretty much covered CLB. The Melodic Blue by Baby Keem. Now, for my opinion on this, I think that it's still kind of, I'm not gonna say it's rough. It's more along the lines of, you could tell Baby Keem is still like I guess maybe finding his way into the industry. His flow is crazy. It's not like anything else that you hear. But he's still trying to find his way throughout the industry. Obviously, he tried to come up on his own. Like, if you've heard, what is that? Orange Soda. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you heard his last project and Blue Fanta, you can tell like he's trying to navigate his way and how he wants to be defined as an artist. That being said, the Melodic Blue was still a very enjoyable project. You can tell that. Once he got up there with those 2 projects, now he's getting the stamp by his own cousin, Kendrick. And Kendrick has been featured, 3 times on this album, but twice as a actual featured artist. And obviously, both of the songs on there caught a lot of attention because Kendrick had been pretty much, as he said, SIE for a long time. So, yeah. Family Ties, obviously, that's my shit. I mean, you can't really say too much about that. Like, Baby Keem really showed that he could hold his own, and then Kendrick is Kendrick. Like, that's gonna be, it is what it is. The other one, Range Brothers. Oh, Range Brothers, man, that is. As a Kendrick fan, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this once. Let this man have fun. Do you know how many silly tracks that he has done with TDE and with Black Hippie as a whole? Let this man have some fun. He already gave us a couple of series albums, the Section 80 being a series album, Good Kid, Mad City being about his childhood, so of course that's going to be serious. He gave us the political album in To Pimp a Butterfly, and then he gave us an album about the struggle with his faith in Damn. Let that man have some fun. Yeah. Like, he don't gotta. Granted, I mean, everything he drops is not going to be a bad album, and I have faith that whatever album that he decides to drop for his last TDE project is going to be great. He has not had a bad album all the way. If you could go all the way back to the No Sleep Till NYC with J Rock, or C4 when he did an entire mixtape dedicated to the Carter 3. Come on, like, bro, Kendrick does not make bad music. He doesn't miss. Yeah. So I'm just y'all just gotta relax on that. I know the top of the moment was a little like, huh? But at the same time, I just listened to it. I'm like, oh yeah, they clowning on this track.
I listened to. I mean, when I listened to the song, I was just like, yep, Kendrick's back. Like, yep, that's that. Right. He just be doing crazy stuff, and I'm just like, yeah. That's him.
Yeah.
He's back. He's back by popular demand.
And then on top of that, he still gave a dope ass verse on Range Brothers. Like it was like, okay, forget the silly stuff. Let's focus on the actual verse that he had, where he's talking to Keem about, okay, this is what you need to do while you're in the industry. Do this, do this, do this. And Keem is like, well, wait, what? I want to do this, 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 and this. And he's just like, hold on, bro. Like, he's trying to give him advice on what he needs or how he needs to move. So there was still substance in that song. But then the rest was just him being silly. Like, man, come on, let's get this shit. So, yeah. The Melodic Blue was a good, I think, reintroduction into Baby Keem and PG Lang. Which I'm pretty sure after Kendrick drops his last TDE album, he's going to primarily focus on the PG Lang as where he drops his next content. Since it's a multimedia company, obviously they're going to be doing probably music videos like they did with Family Ties. Baby Keem dropped under PG Lang's imprint. He didn't drop like under another label or anything like that. So I think that's the start of something prosperous for Kendrick. Kendrick is like, he's been with TDE since 2005. And, you know, some people were, you know, why isn't he staying with TDE? The man's been with TDE for 16 years. I'm pretty sure it's no hard feelings. I'm pretty sure that it's all love, but let the man do his own thing.
His wings.
Yeah.
Not have no control over his creativity.
Exactly. Artists got to grow, man. Let the artists grow in their own way.
Quick question before we kind of move on. Where do you guys kind of see where the industry is going? Because I see it where it is now, and where do you see it going?
That's a very good question. The industry itself has always been kind of volatile, and the way that it is going, I want to see like R&B make a comeback to the forefront. And when you got artists like Giveon out there like pushing songs, you're like, okay, cool. But I guess I need more. It doesn't help that a lot of rap artists actually sing on the track too, because now it has closed off the lane for a lot of R&B singers to be out in the forefront. But that being said, and then as far as streams, it really just depends on the artist, because there are people who are probably going to be faking their streams, and there are people who are going to be genuinely getting those listens. It's a really interesting, I guess, predicament that the industry is in, because really and truly, when you look at all the artists last year, who went platinum? Who really went platinum? And I had to bring up that that lyric from Kendrick on Family Ties. He's like, who went platinum? I call that a visitor. It's like, y'all not really earning y'all streams, and y'all not really earning these album buys. Like, at most, y'all might get gold, or maybe your track might get platinum, but your whole entire project ain't going platinum. Like, people will listen to a whole song for days and days and days, but then you drop a project, and some people might just be one and done. And I think that's the downfall kind of streaming, because now people can just take that song and then not have to listen to the entire project, whereas back in the day you would probably have to buy the CD and then burn it onto another CD just for you to listen to that song continuously. But still, you bought the CD, so of course that went to the
listen to the whole album.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's interesting as far as where the industry is going. And I think that, you know, as streams become more prominent, you know, you're going to find that artists are going to focus more on singles than they are going to do their projects. But you're going to have those artists who are going to focus like solely on entire bodies of work. And those artists are more than likely are going to have longevity in the industry, as opposed to someone who's just making a couple hot singles. So it's kind of the same thing as in the past. You got those who had one-hit wonders and their projects were mediocre at best, and then you have those who would actually put out full bodies of work, and their shit would be great, and then they continue to do that over and over and over again until their time in the industry starts to wane. But even then, they've already established themselves, so there's really no need for them to, you know, prove any points. So
I'm hoping that lyricism and imagery comes back to
The forefront.
the forefront. You know, before, like, as we're going to do later, the discography of Nas, you know, he did a lot of storytelling, even if it was about the same subject matter. But, like, you could hear the way that he talked about growing up in his hood and having to, go and hustle every day to make ends meet. Nowadays, a lot of tracks that you hear are just about the same thing: sex, money, drugs. And I mean, I get it. That's what, quote unquote, the rap game and hip hop is been known to be it for. But I really do want to, like you said, see R&B and these other genres come back, because like when you listen to the radio and every 10 minutes you hear the same song, it's just like, okay, I'm just ride in silence.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Because like by that time you got the whole junk just memorized, and like it gets mundane at some point. So yeah, I hope to see more lyricism, more imagery. But I think that, there is a push for that. It's just we have to recondition our ears. And not only recondition our ears, but we have to recondition the people that are listening.
Yep.
Because a lot of, like I said before in previous episodes, a lot of the music that is dropping today is, in retrospect, microwave music.
Mm-hmm.
Produced fast, put out fast, and the
Goes
people
away
who are
fast.
listening to it is popular today and it's on to the next.
Yeah.
So unless you have, like KJ said, a project that's from top to bottom makes you want to listen to the whole project start to finish, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah. But that's actually a good question, Nasa. So we definitely appreciate it there. Do you have any comments?
I mean, I do. I mean, I brought it up because, where I see it is that I feel like where the music industry is now, it's going, I feel like it's kind of going through a definite change, where it's more about ownership. It's definitely about ownership, and I feel like future-wise, the music industry is definitely going to be independent dominated, where you have a lot more independent artists than people who are signed to labels or anything like that, especially with like NFTs coming out and like crypto, and you having the ability to gain ownership. That's a really big thing. I also do feel that the music industry is kind of at a halt at the same time. Like, it's going through change, but it's at a halt. Like, you still see the same quality. You still see the same, folks, of course. Like, you still see the same folks. So it's very, again, like, very mundane. Like, it's just so repetitive. And I really wish that there was like someone like a spark where it's not so like rap dominated, or like, and there's like a certain balance with each genre. And I do really, really, really wish that R&B makes a comeback, because that gave it its balance. It gave it its balance. So I'm really hoping, and myself, and just like speaking for myself as an R&B singer, trying to put forth the effort, like quality will always trump quantity.
Yep. Well,
to piggyback what you were saying though, it's not even, it's the music industry as well, but it's also Hollywood.
Yeah.
yep.
Why do we have 4 remakes of the same movie? Like, what's wrong with going back and watching the original? So, and that also ties into the fact that the attention span of the viewers and listeners is very short now. So when you go back and you recreate, and nothing was wrong with it, but Space Jam, A New Generation, like, you cut some of the actual cinematic factors out of the new one because you were trying to create a new vision for what Space Jam was. Space Jam is always going to be Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny. Yeah. I'm sorry. Like, that's just a real fact. So, like, and like I said, there was nothing wrong with the new Space Jam, but when you go from having a 2-hour and almost 30-minute movie to recreating it and now making it basically an hour and 30 minutes, again, that's an hour of cinematic time cut out of it. And granted, some of the production factors might have been halted due to the pandemic, but when you're doing a classic like that, don't butcher it. The same thing they did with Ghostbusters, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, Hollywood, the music industry, like you said, they need that spark for any and everything to really come and have something of substance. And until that spark happens, I think we're just going to continue to keep getting the same remakes.
Same old,
Yeah. And I also appreciated when radio stations were like privately owned instead of being owned by corporate, because now corporate radio stations, all they do is going to play either something that's on the Billboard, like they're going to play like the top 10 hip hop and R&B songs, or they're going to play the top 10 pop songs or the top 100 pop songs over and over and over again. So radio definitely had, or being owned by corporate definitely had an influence on that. But
you know, the smaller radio companies, like those definitely help as far as like pushing yourself out.
Yep.
Like pushing artists out. Like going through those main companies, it's hard because it's just like you said, like.
But it also deals with like the
not gonna hear.
censorship of things too. You know,
Yeah.
everybody's trying to be so politically correct about things that, you know, sometimes having that raw and ruggedness of real live talk and TV, like.
And that's the crazy thing, is like you get to the point it's just like you gotta be politically correct about everything that you're not even politically correct about anything. Like you're not even correct about anything. Like we've got to the point of just trying to be so politically correct and so perfectly correct that we're not even correct at all. And so it's just like, it's weird.
Shrug. But definitely we appreciate that question, Nasa. So with that, we are 40 minutes in. So let's go ahead and get to what we came to do today again. So you guys already heard my apology here, so we wanted to apologize once again for the glitch that happened, but we are going to do a ranking. We're going to discuss the discography and rank each album, you know, where we think is the best, as far as the artist known as Nas or Nasir Oludara Ben Jones. Or did I get that right?
I think you hit it right on the head.
Okay. Yeah, I was hoping to get his government right. I'm like, I think that's what it is. I know his dad is also named Oludara, so yeah. So how we Nasir bin Oludara Jones? Okay, so I had the bin in the wrong place. Either way, so what we are going to do, of course, is discuss his discography and just rank it, whether we think, you know, what album is great and a classic, and then what albums are not, and how we're going to do it. Of course, we're going to drop a visual of how we ranked the albums as well. Obviously, we've already done this, but we are going to make sure that, you know, we record this again, so that way we can get your opinion on it and see how you feel. We are going to try and tackle all 16 of Nas's projects, because I mean, he's had, if you include the Firm's album, that's 17 projects, but we're not going to be ranking the Firm. We're not going to be ranking that album because that was obviously a collaborative effort between more than two artists. And the only reason why I included Distant Relatives in this one is because it's literally just him and Damian Jr. Carl Marley. So with that, the way that we rank these albums are, we have the very top tier albums as the S rank. We have the great albums in the A rank. Then you've got B rank albums, which are good, C rank, which is D rank, which is nah, and then of course F, which is failing. So with that, we're gonna go in order from top to bottom, from his first project all the way down to his very most recent one. And again, a visual will be dropped on here, so when we drop the visual, we just want to see where your opinion is. If you agree, let us know. If you disagree, let us know. So let's get started. Nas's first album, Illmatic.
The staple.
Yes. We
Hands down.
yeah, it is. There's really no discussion about it. Like, Illmatic is obviously S rank. If you listen from the intro all the way to, I mean, from the intro into New York State of Mind, into The World Is Yours, and you can listen to that entire album from top to bottom. It's quick. It's only 10 or 11 tracks.
10.
Yeah, so it's only 10 tracks. It's only about 40 minutes. But it is still just a classic. When he dropped it in 94, it completely changed the entire rap game. It's all good. When folk was rapping in New York at the time, that what was popular was the rap like Big Daddy Kane rap in New York. Like, folks was quick tongued with it. Even Jay-Z was quick tongued with it. And then Nas just dropped this album and everybody's flow changed.
Yep.
They started, rapping gritty and
Like,
doing
it got
slow.
serious.
Yeah.
Super duper. I'm super hard. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
I wasn't doing this before.
Yeah. So he definitely changed the game, and unfortunately, Illmatic didn't get the commercial success that it should have gotten, but Illmatic represented what New York was about. And I think that it was important for the culture, and that's why, like, when we look at Illmatic, you just like, damn, yo, that album is really a staple in hip hop. I think it got submitted to the Library of Congress, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, Illmatic is an S, and I don't think we disagree on that one.
Yeah, it's top tier.
Yeah. All right. So moving on from Illmatic is his second album, It Was Written. Now, It Was Written is a little more commercial than Illmatic, and while it's not Illmatic, we still think it's an S-tier album.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Illmatic was his introduction to the game.
Mm-hmm.
It Was Written was his introduction to people knowing who he is.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, I know that might sound like one and the same, but, like, it's so different.
It's so different. It is so different. Like, explaining your beginnings, like, I feel like that's what he did with Illmatic. Like, he just like, you know what, let's put a little dust on here real quick. Let me sprinkle a little bit of my childhood.
Yep.
You know? And then he got to the nitty gritty, like, all right.
In order to hustle, this is what I got.
This
Yes.
is what exactly happened.
And, like, before you pass judgment, you know what I'm saying, look at where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm. I will say that something else that It Was Written did introduce us to was, of course, The Firm with AZ Cormega and Foxy Brown. So we got that introduction. According to Nas, he said that, and this is an interview a long time ago, he said he was one of the first people to sing on a rap track. Like, he was one of the first rappers to just break down and sing, which, of course, you can hear his kind of off-key singing in Street Dreams.
He does sing a lot in his projects.
Yeah.
Alright, Soldier Nas.
But Street Dreams itself was supposed to be the video where you could see him and Pac reconciling, because, you know, this is in the middle of the whole East Coast West Coast rivalry, and obviously, you know, Bad Boy, Death Row, Pac and Biggie had set that off, and Nas, of course, was one of the casualties of Pac's wrath. That being said, Nas was just like, I don't got no beef with you. You know, they were in talks. As we talked about before, Pac had said to him, you know, it was what it was. This is just the industry. He really didn't have anything against Nas, especially because Nas sent some subliminal shots at Biggie anyway in the message. So they kind of were on the same page. It's just that Nas was on the East Coast and Pac was on the West Coast. But you can clearly see that Nas was not trying to get into that beef or into that feud, because Nas is coming, has Dr. Dre all over it as far as production. So you could tell he's like, man, F all this, man. I'm trying to be, you know, I'm trying to unify. I'm trying to get some unity. I'm trying to get this money.
That's really what I got.
And I'm willing to work with, you know, whoever. I'm not, you know, beholden into some imaginary beef that's going on, man. Like, no, forget this coast to coast beef, yo. I'm trying to get this money. So you can tell that Nas wasn't, you know, trying to get involved in that. And then obviously, you hear Mobb Deep throughout this album, and then the last track with it being "If I Ruled the World" with Miss Lauryn Hill, which was the commercial track that he put out for the radio stations, and it's still one of, in my opinion, still one of the best Nas songs out there. Definitely one of my favorite tracks. Any opinions on this album before we move on?
It had its moments where it was hard to listen to, but I mean, that's with any album. But he definitely put himself like even more into his foundation with the secondary album.
Yeah, I think this was his most commercially successful album, because I believe this one went either triple or quadruple platinum. Probably went more than that, but I think a lot of people were expecting another Illmatic, and It Was Written is not Illmatic, as I've said before. It's still a great album. It's just, I think people were expecting the same content that Illmatic featured, and he gave him something different. Which now brings us to his third album, I Am. Now, I will say that I Am is, on the second time around, I Am was a better listen, but I Am still was a bit of a struggle to get through. Nas at this point, I believe I don't want to say he believes wholeheartedly that this commercialism is working for him. I don't know what his motive is, but you could tell there's a lot of commercialized songs on there. Even the ones that hit, like Hate Me Now, you can, hear Nas bragging, which is, granted, that's not something that you would expect from Nas as far as bragging about like the ice and the chains that he wears, at least not at this time frame. That's not what he did in Illmatic. This is something different. But there are songs on there that were just like, it's kind of, it was kind of a hard. It was definitely a hard listen, but there are some tracks that saved this album. Again, Hate Me Now.
You know what I noticed?
What?
The first 4 albums are literally the same. Literally the same photo.
Oh yeah, just him going through life. It's literally him as a kid, him as a young adult, him as an older adult, and then him in a hoodie. We'll get to Nostradamus in a second. But yeah, as far as I Am, like I said, Hate Me Now, definitely carried. You Won't See Me Tonight with Aaliyah, rest in peace. That definitely carried. Nas is Like carried. And then there are, I would say Dr. Knockboot. Lyrically, that was okay. But there are just some other ones on there that were kind of like, And if you understand the concept of I Am, of course, Nas is really trying to focus more on, his, I don't want to say his love life, but he's focusing more on the aspects of love. And you could tell that with the last few tracks, like KISSING, Money Is My Bitch, and Undying Love. You could tell that he's trying to focus on what's, how to love and trying to find these things. And I'm willing to bet at this, right around this time is when he started going through his shit with Carmen. And if you know that story, well, we'll get to that in a moment. But yeah,
I was gonna say also, like you mentioned, the album covers are all the same. I think by the time he got to I Am, I think his third album may have been starting to open up. He started to see like bigger picture ticket items for what his career entailed and where he was going in the direction.
Yeah. So, any other opinions about I Am before we actually give the grade that we gave it? Anybody else want to talk about any certain tracks that might have stuck out or did not stick out?
How did you feel about New York State of Mind Part 2?
It wasn't New York State of Mind. It was there. I'm like, it's a decent track, but
it's there.
Yeah, it's not like I have New York State of Mind on one of the first tracks on my 90s playlist. Like anytime I listen to that, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm ready for the day. I don't listen to New York State of Mind Part 2. It's just kind of there. So yeah. So any other opinions? Any other comments? So My initial thought on this album was I was gonna give it like somewhere in the B- or C range, but I think after a consensus between everybody, it is a C. Do we disagree on that?
That's about right. I mean, it's a solid project, but again, like
It was
tracks that hold weight to filler tracks.
Yeah,
It's more filler than
anything.
carry.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Nostradamus.
I low-key I'm not gonna hold you. I low-key don't want to talk about Nostradamus. I don't want to talk about Nostradamus because it was hard to get through.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
hard as hell to
Bruh.
get through the album.
Oh my lord. Like there was literally only maybe 1.5 tracks on there that actually was good. You Owe Me with Genuine was probably the only one, and that's the actual single that he dropped.
I gotta play my favorite.
Ah, shit, not this one.
Girl,
Oh my gosh.
it's lyrically horrible. Catchy as hell though.
My gosh. It is catchy, but if catchy for the wrong reasons.
I will say Project Windows with Ron
Isaac. Yes. I almost forgot about that one.
That was actually a very good one. So that's the only one that I would say.
Yeah. Project Windows and You Owe Me are obviously the only ones that I think really carry this. The other one that he dropped as a single, Nostradamus, I really wasn't a fan of. Some people, when I talked to in my office, they were like, "Wait, I kind of like that track." I was like, "I didn't." And then New World, which was talking about Y2K, I gave that one that one's a passing track. Like, okay, that one gets a pass. Everything else, no. Nostradamus
Not
is
even Family featuring Mob.
That I get. When I heard the track, I kind of respected it, but it just didn't stick.
I get you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so just to give the backstory of Nostradamus for those who have not heard about this album, pretty much Nas kind of rushed to make this album because he had intended to drop 2 albums that year, which was I Am and whatever Nostradamus was originally supposed to be. However, tracks got bootlegged on the internet and leaked, so he couldn't use those tracks. So he had to go into the studio and pretty much re-record to meet the label's demands. So that's how we got Nostradamus. And unfortunately, yeah, it's an F. Yeah. I don't think we have any disagreement there that it is indeed an F. So, out of the first 4 albums that we got 2 S-ranked albums, which was Illmatic and It Was Written, 1 C-ranked album, which is I Am, and then of course Nostradamus as a failing project. So, this brings us to Stillmatic, which which we know as this is the return of Nas.
This is the return.
Yeah.
It went off.
Yes. Stillmatic is the album that saved Nas's career. Because we all know with Nostradamus being as bad as it was, and then him in his beef with Jay-Z and most of Rockefeller, if we really being honest, after Jay-Z had dropped the Takeover, people had thought that was it for Nas. People thought that was it. And then along came Stillmatic, and along came Ether.
And along with Ether came a whole line of beef.
Whew, boy.
Straight off the cap.
Yeah. Look, man.
Just off rip, he just said.
Yeah. I said the first 3 tracks, like the Stillmatic intro, going into Ether, going into Got Yourself a Gun. Nas was just like, all right, I'm not holding back. I'm going off. Ain't nobody stopping me right now. That man literally went off of those 3 tracks. There are some other tracks on there that I personally enjoyed. Like
people was really trying to play him. So he was just like,
Yeah.
nah, nigga. Y'all not finna play me.
Exactly. As far as tracks on there, like You're the Man, I like the beat behind that. One Mic is by far in my opinion, other than Ether, the best track on this album, just because of One Mic's content, talking about a revolution. Like that is, and I literally did not a thesis paper. This was in college. This was in high school. I did a research paper on One Mic, and how I felt that truly defined who Nas was and how he viewed the world and how he viewed America and what he thought that black people as a whole should be doing in order to combat everything that's going on in the hood as well as everything going on with the government. So there's that. Obviously, you got Rule, which is, in my opinion, part 2 of If I Ruled the World. This time he had A. Marie on the track. So, and I personally like that one too because of this, especially because the sample is Everybody Wants to Rule the World, and it kind of fit the theme of the song. So, any comments on Stillmatic? What did we say this was? We said this was a B, like B plus.
Yeah, high B.
Yeah.
Low A.
Okay. All right, cool. So yeah, with it being a great track, of course, there also was some filler on this album. Obviously this album dedicated more to political commentary. Not as much political commentary as a later album, but still there was some political commentary throughout this album, and you could tell. So we're putting it in that high B, low A category. We're gonna keep it at a B for right now. The next one, and when we actually recorded the first time, all three of us kind of had different mindsets about this. The Lost Tapes. Now,
no comment.
That was Law's opinion.
It was not needed.
Okay, that was Janas's comment. I had disagreed.
You said that the Lost Tapes, the first one was like the tracks that should have been on later. They should have been on I Am and Stillmatic, and they were left off not as throwaway tracks. It's just that they couldn't get cleared. Yeah, these tracks should have made those albums. They were that good. They should have replaced some of those filler tracks that were on I Am and Nostradamus, if we're being real.
I just personally think that the tape shouldn't have been, the Lost Tapes should have been out. Like, those songs should have just went ahead and been cleared. Like,
yeah. But either way, I went back and I re-listened to it just to make sure that I wasn't tripping, and my opinion is still the same. He definitely has, at least in these tracks, there is definitely some heavy stuff. Especially the last track, talking about now Nas doesn't fall into like the hood stereotype of not having his father in his life, because his father was very much in his life and still to this day. However, his father had some baggage. Had some serious baggage, and he talks about those issues about how, his father kind of made his mom cry and wait at home for him when he wouldn't come home late at night sometimes, or how he actually caught his dad cheating on his mom. Yeah, it definitely has some content on there. And then there was some other songs. There was another song on there that really also stuck out to me. Not Do Rags was cool. That was a very decent intro. Wasn't my favorite, but I think Do Rags just showed like where he was during that time and what his thought process was. But there's another one. Nothing Lasts Forever. That one personally talks about how he's reminiscing on certain things in his life that are no longer there, and as well as how people in his hood, what they were used to, and then how things can get taken away. And it's just like, hey, look, nothing lasts forever. And it goes back to like a mall. He had talked about a mall being there that used to be a hangout spot. It's no longer there. It got demolished. And so that's just something on there. Drunk by Myself is also one that hit heavy for me, because literally he's like, man, I can't do this. Like, I'm literally poisoning my family by doing this. Yet here I am with a bottle by myself in my own thoughts. So yeah, I personally had given it an S, but because we had no comment from Law, and Nasa says that the album to her was just there. Unfortunately it lost some value here, so it got bumped down to A. So we're just gonna keep it at that. So it is what it is. The next one would be Godson.
Two of my favorite songs is Thug Mansion and Heaven.
Yes.
If heaven was a mile away.
Yes, I personally loved those tracks. I am a big fan of Get Down because he definitely starts with a story throughout Get Down, and that was a very, very interesting story that kind of intertwines with everything going on in his hood still. And I personally like that track. I also liked Last Real Nigga Alive because that one addressed how the Jay-Z beef got started. And he pretty much, he didn't take like an actual shot at Jay-Z throughout the song until the very end.
He just aired that shit out.
Yeah, just aired it out. Like, hey, look, this is what happened. Yada, yada, yada. This is what's going on. This man was like a stan. Obviously, he, then got involved with my girl. I didn't trip about it, unfortunately, because me and my girl was going through it at the time. So me and Carmen, me and Carmen are going through this. So I really was just like, yeah, whatever. But then he started sneak dissing me, and I'm trying to figure out, what the hell? Where are you coming from? Why go through all of this? And he pretty much was just saying, okay, so I'm Scarface, he's Manolo, and it's a shame because I had to kill his whole squad, Dolo. Like and I paraphrased that bar, but he was just like, yeah, you could tell, like, because Ether really bodied the entire Rockefeller
very
Records.
Nonchalant about that.
Yeah, very.
Very nonchalant about that.
Of course, you got Made You Look, which is one of my favorite tracks on there. Yes. Book of Rhymes also like goes into his thought process on how he's writing his rhymes, and he's just like, nah, I don't want to work with that. Nah, that won't do. You can actually hear him go through that, and we already talked about how much I love Thug Mansion and Heaven. And then of course I Can, which as a kid I loved I Can, but then as radio does, they play it too much, and it used to get annoying. But I will give the song credit for what it did because I Can definitely was inspirational. So, I think we had said A. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a solid grade.
Let me just double check to be sure that that's what we had put down, and that's what we're putting down here. Yep, it's an A. It deserves an A. Okay. After Godson is a Streets Disciple. Now, Streets Disciple was good, but it was long. And I know that it was a double album initially, before, of course, streaming. And now it just makes it look like one long album. But Streets Disciple was decent. You could tell Nas was kind of experimenting with sounds and experimenting with certain rhymes. There's one track on there, These Are Our Heroes, where he unfortunately took shots at Kobe, but this is during Kobe's little incident. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that, looking at it in hindsight, I understood why that track was made, but, now, every time I listen to it, I'm just like, I can't listen to this song, man, because, I wasn't even a Kobe fan, but I'm just like, man, Kobe went through some bullshit. So, yeah, there's that. Just a Moment is my favorite track on this album, as it details, losing a loved one, losing soldiers, losing your friend, your comrade, your homie. And as someone who just lost his grandfather, that song hits a little harder for me, but that's definitely my favorite track on the album. Are there any comments on Streets Disciple?
He talked about love again in the second half.
Yeah, and that actually details his getting ready to get married to Khalees at the time.
I'm not gonna hold you. I did not make it all the way through
Streets
Disciples.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because I'm not gonna hold you. My attention span is kind of short.
I know. I get you.
So my attention span is kind of short. So listening to it was just like Nostradamus. Like it was just a lot.
Yeah.
To take in.
And as I said before, the album was long. That literally, it wasn't a bad album like Nostradamus was. Nostradamus was just a terrible listen. This was more like, okay, I'm trying to get through to listen to the next album, and it's really just a very long-winded album. But I understand because it was a double album. On this one, he definitely features his father a bit more, and you can hear like songs like "Bridging the Gap," which you hear more about his relationship with his father. Which "Bridging the Gap" is a good song. It wasn't one of my personal favorites, but it still did what it had to do to show that relationship and that dynamic was there. As far as like any other like lyrical content, I mean, it's kind of the same things that Nas goes through, and how he talks about how he's Street's disciple in both tracks. The album, I believe, with it being sort of kind of an experimental album and him just trying to get out of Columbia's umbrella and out of that shade, because I'm pretty sure like at this moment he's done contractually with Columbia for the most part. He just had to throw something out there. So Street's Disciple itself gets a B. Thief's Theme. I love Thief's Theme. It's one of those tracks that did not get a lot of radio play or a lot of video play, but I love Thief's Theme. And then there's another track that is hella similar beat-wise, but we'll get into that in just a second. Overall, Street's Disciple is a B. I think that's the general consensus here. Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll go ahead and put that on the B. We are 69 minutes in and 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we're actually making good time because the last time we were trying to actually record this, we were almost more than 2 hours in at this point. And we had not even gotten through the halfway point. Now we're at, like, the halfway point for Nas's albums. And now we're getting into the albums that he had with the collab albums that he had under Def Jam and Columbia, as I came to later find out that that Columbia Records was still profiting off of these next two albums. I had no idea that they were, but they were. So
that's what happens.
Yeah.
These contracts, y'all.
I see.
Print.
Fine print. Read the fine print.
Yep. But at this stage, Nas and Jay-Z had ended their beef. They squashed it. They reconciled. They actually became friends. And were featured on. Jay-Z was actually featured on a couple tracks of his. Which gives us into the next album, Hip Hop is Dead, which is his first album contractually under Def Jam, but is still under Columbia as well. So, Hip Hop is Dead. Commentary on the state of hip hop during that time. At this time, it's 2006, 2007. Hip hop's going in a different direction. You see the South becoming more prominent. You got the trap music. You've got crunk music. You've got
Chop Screwed.
Yep, Chop and Screwed. You got Lean With It, Rock With It, which of course Atlanta Snap music is more prominent around this time too. This is right before Soulja Boy breaks into the actual industry. At this moment he's making his mixtape, which included those songs before he dropped his debut album, quote unquote. You could tell that Nas had felt that hip hop was going in a completely different direction, and he didn't see it in a favorable eye.
And that was 15 years ago.
Yeah,
and he was not wrong.
He was not.
He wasn't right, but he wasn't wrong either.
Yeah, it's like, okay, hip hop didn't die, but the direction it took, yeah. Obviously, the song that sticks out is Hip Hop is Dead. Now, when I talked about Thief's Theme and how that was, one of my favorite tracks off the last album, it's clear that he used the same sample for this one, and he even says in the track, I had to run it back. So, for those who don't know the sample, it's Inagata Davida, and what's the artist's name? Iron Flower? It's a 60s band.
I think that is right.
Iron Butterfly, excuse me. My fault. But yeah, Inagata Davida was the sample that he used for both songs. And not a lot of artists can flip a sample and do it again and make the track better. He was able to do that. Though Hip Hop Is Dead, as far as lyricism, as Nas sometimes tends to do, he did get off subject a couple times, but the purpose of the track still remained the same, and I think that it got its point across. Now, oddly enough, one of my favorite songs on there is Black Republicans with Jay-Z. I think that one was a great album, a great track. Not Going Back with Khaos talks about how he's not going back to the hood. He got love for them. He got love for his people. But just because they are stuck in a cycle of hatred, he's like, no, I can't do that. I'm not going back. And then Can't Forget About You with Chrisette Michele. And, of course, they used the sample of Nat King Cole. That was definitely one of my favorites. Any comments on Hip Hop Is Dead? Okay. What did we say? A? A. Yeah, okay. All right. Hip Hop Is Dead has an A. Next is Untitled, or Nas, or Nigga.
Hard E-R.
Or Hard E-R.
Hard
This album had a lot of political commentary. A lot. It's actually, in my opinion, also one of his more slept on albums. I think it didn't get the attention it deserved.
Nothing that's politically correct. Let me slow my roll.
Yeah.
Whoa. But I think nothing that, truly shines light on like struggles and the plight of one community is ever going to get the justification and vision that it should.
Yeah.
And with this album in itself, he talked on a lot of things that were related to black people and the community. And
yep.
Just the justice system and, things that in 2021 we're still dealing with. And he dropped this album back in 2008. So I think with Hip Hop Is Dead, he stated what the industry was and where it was going in a direction. And then with Untitled, that was him really coming forth and speaking towards why things are the way they are.
Mm-hmm. You can definitely hear that, especially in tracks like You Can't Stop Us Now, The Slave and the Master, Fried Chicken. Nick, yeah. Project Roach with The Last Poets, which, again, The Last Poets is on You Can't Stop Us Now, and Project Roach, and they definitely provided the commentary needed. As always, The Last Poets, shout out to them. They have become staples in hip hop. If you don't know who The Last Poets are, definitely look them up. I will say that Black President, obviously this was on the cusp of Obama being elected president. When he dropped the track, it was in 2008, it was the summer. So at that point, Obama had won or was winning in the Democratic primary, and I think he already saw the writing on the wall that he's about to become the next Democratic nominee and the next president. So he obviously made a track before the Jeezy had dropped My President Is Black. So yeah, Nas already saw what was about to happen with that. What did we rank this album? Was it an A or a B?
I think it was a B.
Yeah.
Let me double check here. Yeah, we said B. Let us know if you agree with that. I think there were certain tracks on there that definitely hit, and again, more filler. You also have tracks like Hero that I loved the chorus on Hero and the sample that he used. But Hero wasn't like the best Nas track that he's ever dropped. It was just kind of, okay, here's a track for the album. Here's a single. And I think that's what it was. But yeah, we'll give it a solid B. After the N, or Nas, or Untitled, or Nigger, you have Distant Relatives, if I'm not mistaken. Now, Distant Relatives is the collab album that he did with Damian Jr. Kong Marley. And Nasa said that she didn't get to this one. But when me and Law talked about it, we said that there wasn't really anything that stood out on this project, but it was still a solid project. You know, there was nothing bad at all about this album. It was just, I mean, it was mid, but it was there. Like, it was a good playthrough. You know, you hear the political commentary again, especially with, you know, Damian Jr. Kong Marley. If you've ever heard any of his songs, it's mostly going to be about political commentary about his homeland and about Babylon. You'll hear that throughout the album itself. I think we have given it a B.
Yeah. We said that, I think, because we were talking about the fact that, like, they were trying to raise more awareness that as a people,
yeah,
i.e. black people, we have to stop attacking each other
and
start uplifting and supporting each other and stop being crabs in the barrel.
Yes. Yeah. And I think Nas and Damian Marley have good chemistry. You know, they proved it with Road to Zion, which was on one of Damian's earlier albums. But yeah, I think that, you know, while it didn't have like standout tracks, the project itself was still very, very good. So we had given it a solid B here because it fit the narrative. Now comes Life is Good. And me personally, this is an S. This is Nas at his finest. Outside of Stillmatic. This album itself, when he wrote this, say what?
It definitely was like a breakthrough.
Yeah.
Relief.
For those who don't know, at this point, Nas has divorced Khalees. And if you look on the album cover, that is literally the green dress that Khalees wore for her wedding.
In green, though?
I don't know. He was wearing white, but I didn't see any green on his outfit, and she wore a whole ass green dress. I don't know.
I don't get it.
I don't know.
They were trying to be mint.
I guess maybe green is her favorite color. I don't know. But yeah, Life is Good. You can hear him getting back to who he is as a person in this album, as well as, you know, talking about his failed marriage. You can hear still some of the political commentary throughout this album, but then you get more about his growth and his push towards being divorcee and just getting back to his roots, like with tracks like Nasty that showed that, you know, he still got it lyrically. The Don proving that, hey, I've been proven in this game now. I've been here long enough. Y'all know who it is. And I mean, that goes back to Nas's nickname, Escobar or Esco. Like, he's reminding us who he is, and he's also reminding himself of what he's been through, and that shouldn't define him as a person. Sounds
like a Godfather name.
I mean, call it what you want, but yeah, like going back to Stillmatic, the N, the A to the SIR, and if I wasn't, I must have been Escobar. That is literally like Nas's alter ego. So this is Esco. This is Esco here on this album. And then you look at tracks like Daughters, where it's commentary on how black men, and he kind of included himself in this, how they have treated women in the past, and how he feels as though God looks at y'all and says, okay, y'all gonna mistreat women. Guess what your first child gonna be?
A woman.
A girl. So it makes him rethink how he treated women during the time. And there's even again some.
But that comment in itself is actually true.
Well,
I do find that comment to be true. Like
I don't disagree.
Guys who treat women wrong will come up with a girl, because I know some couples like It's like that.
Indeed.
And then the women, who, if you're very narcissistic, you'll end up with a boy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna pray that whenever the time comes, that my gene pools just pull out that boy, and they know that
You're
got a heart over
solid
there.
good man. Solid man.
Solid through and through.
Indeed. Another track that stood out to me was "World's an Addiction" with Anthony Hamilton. Whew, my lord, did he bless that track?
Mr. Anthony. Yeah.
Yes. I think all of the features here definitely fit the album, especially rest in peace Amy Winehouse. Cherry Wine definitely fit that entire narrative of the song. If you haven't listened to it, definitely check it out. This is an S. Do we have any disagreements on that?
Not on my end.
Okay. Nope. All right. We have another S album here. So, gonna give a quick rundown before we get to the final albums of Nasir. So, we said Illmatic was an S. It was written S. I Am C. Nostradamus failing. Stillmatic B plus. Godson A. Streets Disciple B. The Lost Tapes A. Hip Hop is Dead A. The Untitled Album B. Distant Relatives B. And Life is Good S rank.
I think we threw in Lost Tapes 2 being a C or a D or something like that.
Yeah, we were just getting ready to get to that because we got this. That's part of his last 4 albums that we got to talk about.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So before the Lost Tapes 2, there was Nasir, the album that was produced by Kanye. I don't want to like. For those who listen on Mic Check Waifu, y'all know what going antagonist means. Y'all know what that means. And I don't want to go full antagonist on this album strictly because the album was short. If it had been the same length as Nostradamus, with the same quality as Nostradamus, it would have failed. It would have been an F off rip. But because the album is so short, and because I like Cops Shot the Kid, it got a D. I don't really think there's much to talk about this album for real. It's the shortest in Nas's catalog, and thank God that it is, because oh my goodness, I don't know what this was. I think Kanye production wise was trying to do too much. There was one song on there that just lasted way too long, and I think The Dream was on, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Like, I'm trying to find the actual.
Anime?
Yeah, I'm trying to like find the actual feel of this song, and I can't. It's I don't know. Whatever it was, this one was not it. And again, it would have failed had it not been so short. But because it was so short, it's like, all right, yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, it got a D. Any more comments on this album?
Hit the nail on the head.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, no, it wasn't Adam and Eve. It was everything.
Everything?
Yeah,
Oh.
everything was it's just. It felt like there was no point to the song. It was just kind of, I don't know.
Wasn't that the song where it almost sounded like he was singing it live? Doing it
Yeah,
live?
just about.
Okay. I think I like that song only because there's like he did I think it was a sample of a gospel song that was like directly behind it, and I don't know what it was.
Oh, okay.
Can't think of it right now, but
Yeah, that was during the era where Kanye was producing these 7-track albums like Daytona, like Ye, and Kids See Ghosts and Nasir. Obviously, Kids See Ghosts and Daytona were excellent quality projects, whereas Ye and Nasir were, yeah. But Kanye's discography is saved for another time. Which brings us now to the Lost Tapes 2.
Lost Tapes is still like Lost Tapes 1. It's just there.
Now,
I originally said no comment.
so for me, Whereas the Lost Tapes included tracks that should have been on albums but didn't get cleared. The Lost Tapes 2 were definitely throwaway tracks. They were definitely just there to be there. It's like, okay, they're here. What's going on? I don't know. The Lost Tapes 2 really didn't catch my attention like that.
Hearing that commentary though, is smart though. As an artist, you know, you might be in between projects, and you don't really want to go and drop any of your new bangers.
Mm-hmm.
So why not, you know, put out a series of not so top quality songs so that you can get some stir, get some publicity, and you know those are still streamed. So like, say if he dropped that on YouTube, and all of those hit 100,000 views, which I'm pretty sure they have more than that.
Mm-hmm.
That's money in itself, right
Yeah.
there. You know, but in this instance, that's not what we're here for.
Yeah, no.
We're not here for the filler. We're here for the bangers.
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, the Lost Tapes 2 is actual filler, in my opinion. Whereas the Lost Tapes was like, this is actual content and a part of the story that just got cut and was a victim of circumstance. This is just, it's just...
It's like a placeholder.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
It's
It's
like a
just...
little placeholder. Let me just give you all this shit
Yeah.
real quick so I can...
It's literally just there. Like, okay, I got some throwaway tracks. Here you go to my fans.
Right.
The Rap Attack or the Al Jarreau rap. Rest in peace to Al Jarreau as well. Was a very talented jazz musician and very talented scatter, but I just couldn't get with the sample. I don't know Nas. Like sometimes when it comes to Nas's productions, I've been left scratching my head a lot of times, but especially on this one. But either way, we had said either C or D for this one, I believe. Let me double check and see if that is correct. I think. Oh, you know what? I think we had said it was either going to be a C or D, but then NASA was the one who gave it the final word, and it was a D. So let me just double check.
Solid.
Yep. Yep. It is a D. All right. And now for Nas's final two projects that he has dropped recently, King's Disease and King's Disease 2.
Very much low quality.
Yes. So, with King's Disease, we understand that this is Nas and Hit Boy's first collaboration. And with that, there are going to be some things that really maybe work, and then things that kind of don't work, and things that really work well. And with that, I personally thought King's Disease was, okay, this is Nas letting us know for real that he's back. But if you don't know exactly what King's Disease is, I would definitely look it up, because he definitely explains it throughout the album, what the meaning behind King's Disease is. Sometimes you can get complacent when you're at the top, and you notice that a lot of kings, when they have power, then sometimes they'll get hit with certain diseases, and maybe that's a commentary on maybe how they've ruled, or maybe it's just that they've gotten too comfortable in their spot on the top. Either way, if you look at, I forgot which Khan it was, but and this was on a Netflix series, Marco Polo. That Khan, I can't. It's not Genghis Khan, but he had gout.
And gout is basically precursor to diabetes.
Yep.
You know, you're overeating. You know, you're not as active as what you were when you first became a king. You know, so like, I watched Game of Thrones, and one of the kings in that series had gout.
Yep.
They didn't say it because it wasn't like a researched or known thing, but like, he was just explaining, like, you know, he was bedridden for like a week and some change, and he couldn't move. Ankles were swollen. That's all gout is. You know, it's uric acid built up with within your joints.
Yep. And then you got, if you want to talk about like the United Kingdom or England or the old Great Britain, how George III was known as the Mad King. And
That's legit, just power trip.
Yep. But I mean, he also suffered from I guess they figured out later on that he actually was suffering from a disease. I don't know if it was bipolar or if it was schizophrenia. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah. So you've got that commentary, but this is how I guess Nas is showing himself that he's not going to fall into that category. You got tracks like All Bad with Anderson .Paak, one of my favorites. Car Number 85 with Charlie Wilson, definitely a hit. Ultra Black, which didn't hit that like I thought it was, but after later listens, I actually appreciate that song a little more. You have The Cure. He brought back The Firm on Full Circle. Definitely one of my favorite tracks on there.
How'd you feel about Spicy?
Now, Spicy was different for Nas because obviously you got A$AP Ferg and Fabio Foreign, and it's a different feel. I guess this is New York drill now, but I kind of liked it.
It's always interesting to hear like imagine like Ja Rule or Fat Joe or R.I.P. Big Pun, you know what I'm saying, coming back and doing a drill type beat, like that would be different. It would be, you know, them with the times of where music is in New York.
Absolutely. So for King's Disease, for him and Hit Boy's first collaboration, I believe the grade was A+. And this earned Nas his first Grammy, which was a long time coming. He should have won it for Illmatic, but I mean, I guess they didn't have the hip-hop category then. I'm not sure. But he definitely should have got that long before, but it is what it is. I understood why he didn't get it for... No, I know why he didn't get it for Life is Good, because he was in the same category as Good Kid, Mad City. That being said, neither of those albums won because fucking... I'm not gonna talk about Macklemore. I'm not gonna talk about Macklemore. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna talk about the heist.
We're not gonna talk about it.
No. We gonna move forward. All right. So it's an A. King's Disease 2.
I think that's an A.
I said S.
S or A.
Yeah. And it's hard.
Wasn't this the one that got him a Grammy?
No. That was King's Disease. This is King's Disease 2. This literally dropped last month.
Period.
Yeah. So, King's Disease 2, this is the one, of course, that has the track with Miss Lauryn Hill. That is, I guess, the most popular track on here, but he's definitely got some other tracks on here that I love. Goodness gracious, The Pressure, Death Row East. Oh, goodness, Death Row East is one of my favorite. And that was the commentary about him and Pac getting ready to squash their beef. And getting ready to do the video for Street Dreams. That is definitely one of my favorites.
I think Brunch on Sundays is mine.
Yes, Brunch on Sundays with Blast. That is a good one too.
No Phony Love with
Charlie Wilson. Yeah, he brought back Charlie Wilson, and those two don't miss either. That one was good.
Yeah, he knew what he was doing when he brought back Warren.
Yeah. Yes, if you haven't listened to Nobody, please go listen to that track. EPMD 2 was probably, for me, the only track that it didn't miss, but it wasn't like up to par, only because you could tell that Eminem and the legendary group EPMD, like, they kind of recorded at different times and then just kind of threw it all on one track.
I mean, I felt like Eminem snapped, but
he did. But I mean, I will say this, that Eminem didn't murder Nas on his own shit.
He didn't murder him. I didn't say he murdered him. I just say he snapped. Like, he did what he needed.
Yeah,
like, he did his part.
Nas held his own, and I say that
he understood the assignment.
He understood what he needed to do.
I say that Nas didn't get murdered on his own shit, because isn't that like this one of the lyrics from Ether, because Eminem definitely murdered Jay on Renegade. So, whereas on this one, Nas held his own. Nas knew what was up. And on this album as well, there's another one there's another track on here that I really loved. We said Brunch on Sundays already. Composure. you know the vibes. I thought that was again a different track with a Boogie with the Hoodie and YG, but I still liked it. You know, he was able to fit that kind of New York sound, and of course YG being from the West Coast, obviously, but he was able to fit his style with those two artists and make the track work. Rare, definitely a hit.
I found it funny though. You know, he had Death Row East, and then you turn around and you have a West Coast artist.
Yeah.
On one of your songs with there being Death Row East. You know, that I found that like
ironic.
Yeah. And then for me, the whole album was great, but I think Composure, where we get to hear Hit Boy rap, then Hit Boy and Nas, at this point you could tell that their chemistry is in sync. Whereas King's Disease, they were figuring it out, and you know, there were tracks on there that kind of felt like but the project itself was still really, really good quality. In King's Disease 2, they've got it figured out and dropped an amazing quality project. I've given this an S. Well, what's everybody else's grade? Agreed?
I'll give this an S.
Okay.
I'll give King's Disease 2
Yeah.
an S.
S. All right. So, I think we have now covered all of Nas's albums and major projects. So for the rundown, for those of you who did not or got lost somewhere, let's just from top to bottom. Illmatic, S. It Was Written, S. I Am, C. Nostradamus, F. Stillmatic, B. Godson, A. The Lost Tapes, A. Street Disciple, B. Hip Hop Is Dead, A. The End, or Untitled, or whatever, B. Distant Relatives, B. Life Is Good, S. Nasir, D. Lost Tapes 2, D. King's Disease, A. King's Disease 2, S. If I remember correctly, the order was Illmatic was the number one S ranked. Then this is where we kind of were disagreeing on where 2 through 4 was going to be, whether it was going to be It Was Written next, and then Life Is Good, and then King's Disease 2. I think that's what the general consensus was that it would be Illmatic, It Was Written, Life Is Good, King's Disease 2. Then you got the A ranked, which is, in this case, King's Disease, God's Son, Hip Hop Is Dead, The Lost Tapes. For B ranked, we had Stillmatic, Untitled, Street Disciple, and Distant Relatives. And then I C, that I Am was by itself in the C rank. D rank, there's really no need for me to put that in order. It don't matter. They were both trash. And then, of course, Nostradamus, that bullshit. So
I just want to know how he could have made that album better.
I think, as far as Nostradamus, had not the original tracks got leaked and he had to make an entirely new album, I think Nostradamus would have been better. Because I think he had a plan to drop 2 albums in that same year, a la DMX, who did It's Dark and Hell Is Hot, and then Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood in the same year in 98. He was trying to do the same thing. But the leak really, really hurt him. And yes, even in 1999, people were still leaking tracks on the internet, guys. So, yeah, I think that really hurt him. So him trying to rush to make the album deadline or meet the label's deadline for the album, that's how Nostradamus came to be. And unfortunately, it suffered because he was trying to rush to make music and not take his time with it like he has with most of his projects. So, all right, guys, we're going to drop the visual. Please let us know what you think. If we got it right, please let us know. The only thing I think most of us had a disagreement on was The Lost Tapes. I still think that is an S-ranked album, but it is what it is.
Placeholder.
Let us know what you think. With that in mind, we are going to go ahead and close out this Muzik Roundtable session. Before we dip, are there any black businesses that we want to highlight or any black podcasts that we want to highlight?
Yeah, I want to shout out my older cousin, Monisha. Her name, she goes by Mo. She has a platform. It's called Solidarity & Co. And it's just an advocate and create a space to inspire, empower, and help others. She's actually looking forward to doing a joint pod, so at some point we can all get together and do that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's Solidarity & Co. SOLIDARITY and Co. on Instagram.
Bet.
No, nothing.
Okay.
I'm all out right now.
Hey, no. It's cool.
all out.
It's cool. I got to give the usual shout outs, of course. So the Chaotic Culture Podcast is an official patron of Blanime Podcast, Worst Generation Podcast, and My Check Waifu for the anime-related content. Please be sure that you check out those 3 podcasts. Definitely for your laughs, check out Blanime Podcast. For your deep dives into certain anime and certain genres, check out Worst Generation Podcast. And, of course, for your seasonal anime and for your seasonal anime breakdowns, definitely check out My Check Waifu. Also, shout out to Inside the Mind of a Blur podcast. They actually inspired me to do something for the Muzik Roundtable. We had the music of our times before, but I actually wanted to do something a little different. And hearing them break down and rank TV shows in our childhood inspired me to do this for music. So definitely shout out to the Blur Minds, Scuba Steve, Cam, all 9 of y'all. I am about to name each and every one of y'all here. Oh, and Skylar, of course. Skylar, I have to shout you out. Most wholesome member of that podcast. Everybody else said, yeah. I love y'all, but yeah. So, with that, also shout out to Truth and Transparency Podcast. To my boy Malcolm, aka Doctor. I definitely shout out to them. Everybody else seems to be kind of on a hiatus right now for the other podcasts that we support. So when they come back, hopefully we'll be able to shout them out some more. And we'll see where it goes. But anyway, if that is all, let us go ahead and close out. So be sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the Chaotic Culture Podcast. You can follow us on Facebook at the Chaotic Culture Podcast page. You can also follow us on Instagram at Chaotic Culture Pod and follow us on Twitter at Chaotic_Culture. You can support this podcast by either going to anchor.fm and supporting Chaotic Culture Podcast here, or subscribe as a patron to our Patreon account. Go to patreon.com/Chaotic Culture Pod, and you can support us at any one of the 4 levels. Also, be sure that you follow us on social media. You can follow me, Ked the Pro, that's K3D the Pro, on all social media. You can follow Miss Nasa at _callmenasa on all social media. And you can follow Law on Instagram at L.JR_96 and on Twitter at Law96_. Once again, we appreciate you guys for getting us to over 2,000 listens. I can't thank you guys enough. You have made this podcast work. It's just crazy how far we've come along from those 2 USB mics that we had in the middle of my living room to where we are now. And we still making moves. So, definitely keep supporting. We appreciate you guys. We got more content coming soon. So,
possible merch.
Yes.
Possible YouTube.
Of course. Yep.
Things in the line.
Yep. We got every week we getting things lined up, y'all. So just be prepared for that. As always, to the crew, I want to thank them for actually coming out and redoing this because, we spent almost 2.5 hours the last time trying to get through this, and unfortunately, what happened and all that good bullshit or bad bullshit.
It's good. We're gonna get this equipment straight.
Yes, indeed.
We're gonna get these cameras.
Yep.
We're gonna, again, run it up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, on that note, guys, thank you once again for joining us for another edition of the Chaotic Culture Podcast. Be blessed, be safe, God is love. Deuces.
Peace.
Look, it's chaos in these streets, so let's talk about it, please. Let's hold some conversation. You see where I'm coming from. Yes, it's so amazing. Go ahead, get comfortable. You can grab a seat, take a load off your feet. Yeah, welcome to the table. We don't tell no lies over here. This ain't no fable. We just just live our lives over here. We ain't no angels. We just shine our light over here. We got the power. We just showing love over here. Cause everybody needs